yeah. Welcome, everybody, to another edition of Outside Looking In. My name is Bruce Degger, and we're talking about the issues that emanate from Montgomery County and beyond. And once again, we're talking about beyond. I'm giving you an early morning podcast. Haven't been on the radio or doing the show for a while. I just haven't had the time or the gumption. And that's a bad thing. You got to be motivated. If you're going to do something, you got to stick with it. That's what my dad told me. And I haven't been doing it, but I'm back today, and I'm back early. It's early in the morning on Friday, and I just wanted to get in touch with you because I said that once I have the moment, once I get that feeling, I'm going to come right back on one of these podcasts and talk to you about it. I opened up my paper this morning. I got the news from the Washington Post. Now, the Washington Post is my local newspaper now. Yeah, I have access to any newspaper in the world via the internet, the great internet, but who knows what's fake news and what's not. But anyway, I don't need fake news. I have the Washington Post, and I'm not saying the Washington Post in their reporting is not accurate, but it is slanted. It is so slanted that a person like me, and I have told you this 1,000 times over, that I sit in the center. There is nobody talking to anybody in the center of this country anymore. Everybody has an opinion, and they have to muscle it down your throat. They have to shove it down your throat to make you come to their side. The people in the middle are the lost generation. We're the Walking Dead. We're the zombies. Give me news that is just news. Give me news that is just news. Impossible. It is impossible, I tell you. I open up the Washington Post today, and seriously, I sit on one side, but then when you get hammered by the other side so badly, it makes my tendencies to be like ultra-conservative come out, and I am not an ultra-conservative. The Washington Post today opens up the newspaper, front page, online, it doesn't matter. They open up with 5 stories of climate change, alternative lifestyle, bump stocks, which I understand, repeal of laws for climate change, Dr. Seuss museums and why Dr. Seuss is a racist pig from now on, why Christians will stand with Trump, why this is wrong, why Trump is ruining Obamacare, why the United States is going to hell in a handbasket, etc. and so forth. Hey, time out, hold up, wait a second. If I wanted the opinion pages, why don't they just put democracy dies in darkness? Opinion should be on the opinion page. I'm not saying that the reporting is false. I'm just saying stop hammering me over the head with your agenda. Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm one of the few people in the world that have an opinion but don't feel like someone else has to share it with me. That I have to beat them up, that I have to throw sucker punches to their head constantly to let them understand, to have them understand the way I'm thinking. No, I'm not going to back down on everything. I'm not. But I'm also not going to beat you over the head with a hammer. But the Washington Post is doing that. Every day I read this paper, it just tears me up inside. I mean, I don't want to go into liberal and conservative because I am in the middle. The middle, there's your middle. We'll meet in the middle. Not anymore. Compromise. Not anymore. Those days are over. And especially in my media outlets. But, the Washington Post wants to be fair and to show us that they can attack their own owner. They had an article the other day about how Amazon took over Whole Foods and they trumpeted that Whole Foods would have 50% cuts in produce and different products. And then they went back and found out that after Amazon bought Whole Foods, the prices are creeping up. But full disclosure, Jeff Bezos owns the Washington Post and everything else, right? That's full disclosure. The guy is. You ever watch the movie WALL-E from years ago about the robot? And then there was the enemy was by and large. That's Jeff Bezos right now. Not that he's the enemy because he's brought a lot of convenience, but too much convenience. He owns everything. I mean, and you look at WALL-E and you say, art can't imitate life. Art creates life. That's what's happening now. He probably sat there and watched this movie and said, hey, I could own Amazon. I can own Whole Foods. I can own a space program. This is Winx. I mean, these guys, it's not like I just want to be the biggest in what I do anymore. I want to be the biggest ever. But that's a different story. That's a different subject. But the Washington Post and just any media outlets. I was listening to WFAN Sports Radio 66 101.1 FM in New York City on my TuneIn Radio app. Why do I mention that? Because I've lived in the Washington, D.C. area for 4 years, and I still listen to New York radio and still listen to the New York sports teams. That's another thing. You don't have to plug into your community. I'm not from here. I just live here. It's a song by James McMurtry. Go out and listen to it sometime, but it's so dead on. People don't take stock in their own communities. And this is why people in elections and things like that, they don't go out to vote because they move somewhere. They don't feel part of the community. They don't immerse themselves in the community, and they don't do it anymore. They don't become part of it. So they just live in what I do for the sports radio. I'm not going to give up the New York Giants. I'm not going to give up the Rangers, the Knicks, or the Mets. That's right. No Yankees. That's right. There are people in New York who do not like the Yankees, or are from New York who do not like the Yankees. I don't wear Yankee hats. I don't wear Yankee paraphernalia. Even if it says New York and the Yankees have cool symbols, and I love all of that kind of stuff. It's a true representation of New York, but I'm not wearing any Yankee stuff. But anyway, I'm listening to that, and these guys are starting talking about the CBS radio network in New York City, and I'm using New York City as my example because that's what was put out to my face the other day. They have WFAN. They have K-Rock, or some others, 92.3. They have WCBS FM. All music stations, fine. Should tell you a little something, but fine. And then they go into WCBS AM, News Radio 88, and they own 1010 WINS, WINS. Two of the longest running stations in the New York City area that give you straight, hard news. Both good stations, I'll give you that. But how does one media company own both news stations in New York City? In New York City. They have different staffs. I'm sure there's some consolidation. I'm sure there's some stuff going back and forth between them both. But they like to maintain themselves as different stations. First of all, from an advertising perspective, how do you do that? It's like, oh, you want to be on both news stations? I guess it works from an advertising perspective. But about a ratings book, I mean, you've just bastardized both stations, let alone the integrity of both stations. And again, I haven't listened to them enough to say that it's not right, but the sniff of impropriety is there. It isn't right that one media company, that CBS FM or CBS Radio, owns the two news stations, the two local radio news stations in New York City. It's not right. It's not right. Years ago, you couldn't own more than one radio station in a market. You know, it's anti-big business, it's anti-everything, but I think you should go back to that. You want to bring news and you want to bring but you want to bring straight news, people actually going out there for a scoop instead of writing an opinion column for hard news instead of having that. That's what we have to do. You can't, a media company can't own a TV, radio, and newspaper in the same market. It's just not right. You know, Americans are up in arms. I want freedom. I want freedom. Well, there's your freedom. That's how are you getting your news? From the same source. Don't tell me that one guy at the top isn't saying, hey, there's nobody that unrelated that's not trying to push their own agenda from now on. An agenda, narrative, opinion. I talk about this all the time. It's a broken record for me, and I'm sure you're tired of hearing it. But it can't happen. It shouldn't happen. It is what is killing us. It's killing us because I need something else to read. And I know that media is, especially newspapers, is a dying market. I'm almost 50 years old. What did I just say? I'm almost 50? Oh, my God. I'm like El Duque from the Yankees. I'm like Livion Hernandez. I have no idea how old I am. I know I'm in the high 40s, but until someone said it, I got a birthday in January, but until somebody said it, I had no idea how old I am. You know, I could figure it out. I'm born in 1968, blah, blah, blah. But I mean, on a day-to-day basis, I'm 46, 48, 49, I don't know. But now I'm going to be 50 in January. I'll know how old I am. But anyway, the point being is, you can't have this kind of stuff. Maybe I'm the only one still reading newspapers. I know that I used to read years ago, all the successful people would read 5 newspapers before 5 a.m., you know, on their limousine ride into their CEO job. Adam Karp, a good friend of mine, he reads 19 newspapers, but he's reading them online. Anytime I wanted to know what was going on in Dallas, Adam Karp would hand me the Dallas Morning News. And he lived in New York. He lives in New York. What's going on there, guy? Where are you getting these newspapers from? But anyway, with the internet, you can find different sources, but I want to know a local source. I want to know what's going on here. The coverage in Montgomery County out of North Potomac, Maryland, or Gaithersburg, Maryland, Rockville, Bethesda is pretty weak. First of all, I don't know what the hell's going on in my own county. The only people telling me about news in my own county, there's some local outlets that I pay attention to. But as the patch, that's a waste of time. And the tweets from all my Montgomery County people. Oh, you're going to give me a negative tweet? No, you're going to tell me how great you are. You're a politician. I get it. So I can't read anything into that. There's something with narrative, which I understand. But the Washington Post can't have narrative. So there's an article in the Washington Post today that I want to touch upon. It's called Dr. Seuss, right? We all grew up on Dr. Seuss. I told you I'm 50 years old. We grew up on Dr. Seuss. The story about Mulberry Street, I can't recall it right now. I should have my facts. But there's a mural in Dr. Seuss Museum that depicts this. It was a great day on Mulberry Street or something, and they have a depiction of a stereotype of a Chinese man wearing the hat, the pointed hat, slanted eyes, chopsticks, and buck teeth. Terrible, right? That's not the way Chinese people look. It's not the way we should depict them. But now Dr. Seuss is the ultimate racist. 35, 40 years later, when these books come out, now it's avant-garde to all these children's books. It's avant-garde to say Dr. Seuss, no good. For a librarian to deny books at her library from Dr. Seuss because it's racist propaganda. It's not right. The depiction is not right. You know it. I know it's not right. But it's time to put a disclaimer on certain things. And this is what's going on in the country. If something's offensive, we got to get rid of it right now. It doesn't matter. It's the same as burning books, man. It's the same thing. It's the same thing as the neo-Nazis or the fascists burning books. It's still a censorship. It's not right. You know what I'm for on this mural that's in this Dr. Seuss Museum? If you want to put, this was a characterization of Chinese people back in 1950, and it's not right or something, I'm okay for clarifying it. But if you forget what it was, then you'll never remember not to do it in the future. That's what history is. If you forget the past, you won't remember the future. Or you'll repeat it in the future. Got to remember these kinds of things. You got to put a disclaimer on it. I'm not going to be like, oh, it's okay. Come on, man. It's depicting Chinese people that way is bad news. It's okay. It's not okay. It's not okay. But all of a sudden, things that were accepted are not accepted anymore. And put a disclaimer on it. Don't start burning Dr. Seuss books. You might think, what is there anymore? What is there? This is the problem with the United States. This is the problem with the world. Immediate gratification. No discussions anymore. It's not right. It's tomorrow. It's going to be gone. How about we discuss it? How about we find the common ground? Nobody wants to hear about common ground anymore. That's the frustration. Nobody wants to hear about it. Nobody wants to discuss anything. Everybody, the big word that came out in the last 10 years, so let's have a dialogue. Let's have a dialogue. Belly wash. Nobody has a dialogue about anything. I find this offensive. I'm going out in the street. And you know what? If you want to go out in the street, how about we do this about gun control? We have marches for everything. If you think what happened in Las Vegas is terrible, which I do. If you think what happened at Sandy Hook is real and terrible, which I do, I think the same. You want to have a debate about gun control? Go out in the damn street. You're willing to protest everything and anything. Go out in the damn street and protest the guns and do it every day. Every day. You want change? Do it every day. You're willing to protest everything here, but this is such an atrocity. No one's out in the street protesting guns right now. Go out, organize your rallies. All lives matter, and I'm not making fun of the Black Lives Matter or anything of this sort, but we shouldn't have to live in fear over handguns and assault rifles, etc. But if you want to make the point, it's easy to say it from your armchair. Let's go out in the street and do it. Call me and I'll be there. Call me and I'll be there. This program is called Outside Looking In. My name is Bruce Negrin. We're on when we're on. And I appreciate you can check out the Facebook page Outside Looking In, or you can look for the Bruce Negrin Radio at yahoo.com. If you have any opinions or questions or comments, feel free to give me a call or contact me via the internet. I want to thank you for listening. Again, my name is Bruce Negrin.